This was a man who lived his life in the service of others. He was a confidant of presidents and kings, but he never forgot who he was and where he was from. He worked tirelessly for the people of this state. He will not be forgotten.
Senator Hyland's sudden death marks not only the end of 27 years in the Senate, but also of a political era. The question now is who will serve out the remaining 3 years in his term. Governor O'Neill is not scheduled to announce his appointment until sometime next week, but sources say that at the head of his list are Congressman William Harding, State Representative James Marshall, and Laura Robertson.
Laura, listen, everybody. Listen, a toast to Laura. May she go from senior partner in our firm to junior senator.
Here.
When do you think you'll be meeting with the governor, Laura?
Actually, I already have.
Laura, I don't really think you should.
Oh, darling, we're all old friends here. If anybody should be the first to know, they should. I met with Ted privately 2 days ago. I got the appointment.
Folks, out of respect for the late senator, the governor isn't going to announce this until next week. So please, until then, say nothing to anyone.
Laura, terrific news.
Now, don't you go taking my name off the office letterhead just yet, okay, Elliot?
Nothing's going to go wrong, darling. She may practice corporate law, but she lives Murphy's.
Glenn, phone call.
Excuse me.
I'm very happy for you.
Oh, for all of us, Audrey.
Laura, congratulations. Washington is precisely the kind of place where a woman of your class should be.
Thank you, Emmett.
Hello.
Mr. Robinson, you want to see your wife make it to the Senate?
Of course.
Well, then you and me better meet. Do you know where the Ridge Bar is?
Who are you?
Just somebody that has some information for sale.
Information about what?
You know, Sunland, Arizona. Why don't you meet me at the Ridge Bar in an hour?
Hello.
Glenn?
I have some escrow papers to sign, or my new shopping center development may fall through.
Oh, couldn't it wait till morning?
It won't take long.
Mr. Robinson? Please sit down. I saw you on TV today. Oh, you look great. Me, I never go to funerals. Depressing.
What the hell is this all about?
Well, you know, being a senator is a high-pressure, high-visibility job. Now, me, I say, so what? Your wife spent time in a mental hospital. Most politicians probably should, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're right. You showed up here because you're thirsty. Sit down. This is what I'm talking about. It pretty well details the nervous breakdown your wife had 7 years ago. It's all here. Everything they did to treat her. The drugs, psychotherapy, shock treatments. Now, I have an open mind about this sort of thing. I say if it works, use it. but most people are very old-fashioned about the mental stability of their representatives.
How'd you find out?
I wouldn't worry about that. And you won't have to worry about it either. Once you give me $50,000.
50,000?
Cash. There's a phone in front of your bank. I'll call you there at exactly 11 o'clock tomorrow and tell you what to do with the money.
What if I can't get it?
Then I have to give this to the person that hired me. And by 11 o'clock tomorrow night, Laura Robinson will be the lead news story on every show in the state. And I guarantee you it won't be because she was appointed to the Senate. You have a good day.
That I nearly called the police.
I wasn't sneaking about. I just didn't want to wake you up.
Where have you been?
Bill and I had to drive out to see the property owners. It got late, so we stopped for dinner. I'm sorry that I worried you, darling.
You missed a great party. Are you all right?
Oh, yeah. A little tired, maybe. Nothing that little time in bed couldn't cure.
Sounds good to me.
Glenn, it's good to see you again.
Well, hello, Arthur. I was on my way to your office.
We've sure got our fingers crossed around here.
What?
Laura's appointment to the Senate.
Oh, yes, of course. I need some cash, Arthur.
Certainly. And how much you want?
$50,000. Yes, and I need it in a hurry.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've got to get the president to approve waiving the notice period for a withdrawal this large. He's not going to be in till 1.
All right. I'll be back by 1:30, and I want my money waiting for me. Hello.
You got the money?
Not yet, but I will. I'll get it.
You damn well better.
How do I look?
Well, I'd say gorgeous. No. Fantastic. How do I look?
Nervous.
Nervous? Well, I'm not nervous.
Relax, darling. You've been to these fundraisers before.
But never with a beautiful U.S. senator on my arm. Will the governor be there?
At $500 a plate, you'd better believe it.
It won't be long before they start paying to see you. I'll get that. You get your coat. Hello.
You got the money?
Yes, I've got it.
You know where the Pioneer Motel is?
I'll find it.
All right. Now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to bring me the money to room 3 at exactly 10:30. Do you understand?
10:30. Right.
Right.
Ready, darling?
Oh, yes. I'm ready.
Should
are quite a few reporters here who'd like to interview you, Mrs. Roberts.
Oh, tell them I'll be glad to talk to them in my office, but not here.
Will do.
You're on your own.
Where are you going?
I want to say hello to Walt. I'll be right back.
Perry.
As always, you look wonderful.
So do you.
Beard's old. Kane's new. I was skiing yesterday.
What are you doing here?
I'm at the hotel for the weekend. Trial lawyers seminar.
Still practicing law?
On occasion, I'm here to lecture.
Not me, I hope. Am I intruding?
You certainly are. Laura, this is Michael Reston. He's representing the prosecution at the seminar. How do you do?
Hello.
If you'll excuse us. Can I take you away from all this?
Hotel bar, 10 minutes.
Very attractive.
Very.
You know her well?
You might say so, yes. Excuse me.
It wasn't so easy getting away. You remembered?
A gimlet with fresh lime. Yes, I remember.
It's been quite a while.
Who's counting?
How are you, Perry?
Fine. And you, Senator?
Oh, that's a bit premature.
The smart money says you're the one.
Who would have thought, when we were younger, that I would become a senator, and you'd become, well, Perry Mason?
Or that we'd see each other rarely.
I've missed you.
The governor's looking for you.
You remember Perry?
Of course. Perry.
Hello, Glenn.
I'll be right there.
Yeah.
How long will you be in town?
Until tomorrow.
I wish there was more time.
So do I. Anybody here?
It's not locked, Ella.
Perry, I've no right to come to you, but I don't know what else to do.
Here, sit down. Can I get you something? What's wrong?
Yesterday, somebody called my husband and said that he had a file of information that could ruin me. He wanted $50,000. So Glenn took the money to the Pioneer Motel at 10:30. Only when he got there, the blackmailer was dead and the file was gone.
What did Glenn do?
What anybody would have done.
He ran.
He came back to the fundraiser and told me everything.
What was in the file?
Clinical records from 7 years ago. My depression. I couldn't work. And people were told that I'd gone away on an extended vacation.
But you went away to be treated.
To the Halvin Clinic in Arizona. I was home within 6 weeks. And I felt fine ever since. The problem is, the therapy included shock treatment.
Proof of that was in the file?
Glenn knew what would happen if the media got hold of that file. My political career would be ruined. But now, what should we do?
Well, first Glenn has to go to the police. He has to make a report.
But he'd have to tell them everything.
Where's Glenn now?
At home.
Laura, I can only advise you. The two of you will have to decide what to do.
We're investigating the death of Luke Dixon.
Laura, where have you been?
Out getting help. Who's this?
Police.
Sergeant Austin, Metro Division.
What have you told her?
Nothing. What is Perry doing here?
He thought he could help.
Did he?
As I was saying, a man was killed tonight in what appears to have been a fight at the Pioneer Motel. The desk clerk says you were there tonight, Mr. Robertson. He said he recognized you from the news.
What is it you want, Sergeant?
I just want to ask Mr. Robertson a few questions, preferably downtown.
My client has nothing to say.
All right. Thanks for your cooperation.
I didn't know that we'd hired you as my attorney.
You needed one just then.
We're very lucky to have him.
Did you tell him everything?
I had to.
Perhaps the two of you should discuss this privately.
No, that's not necessary. She's right. I'm grateful you're here. I'm going upstairs.
Night, Glenn.
Good night.
Good night.
Perry. Thank you.
Is that the Dixon file?
I was just taking it to Laura.
It's my file, Audrey. I can manage. Thanks just the same. Here's the headlines on our victim. His name was Luke Dixon. The police said he was a small-time nickel-and-dime private eye. Said the guy spent most of his time tailing philandering spouses and drinking whatever was cheap.
How could he have gotten hold of those files?
And more important than that, where the hell are they now?
You can be sure they'll surface. Glenn, we should go to the police. Tell them the truth.
How do we know they'll believe me?
The thing is, if you don't come forward now, nobody's ever likely to believe you. Perry's right.
Hold on. Let's not rush it. We've got to think things through here. If we handle this right, maybe do some damage control, a little stage managing, you just might be able to survive this.
It seems to me our main concern should be Glenn's future, not politics.
That goes without saying. You misunderstood me.
We mustn't throw Laura's career to the wolves.
Mrs. Robertson, the police are here.
Show them in.
Hello again, Sergeant.
We got a tip early this morning telling us Luke Dixon was blackmailing someone, and that if we wanted to find out who, we should check out the Halvern Clinic in Sunland, Arizona. So we did. We were told that some records were recently stolen. Your records, Mrs. Robertson. And the thief's fingerprints matched Luke Dixon's. Are you the person he was blackmailing?
That's quite an accusation, Sergeant. Considering you have nothing to support it.
Wondering where you lost your cigarette case, Mr. Robertson? You know, the gold one with your initials on the front? How about the Pioneer Motel, room 3, not 6 feet from Luke Dixon's body? You're under arrest, Mr. Robertson.
Your Honor, in the interest of time and to assist the prosecution, defendant waives further reading of the indictment and advisement of constitutional rights and wishes to proceed directly to the matter of bail.
The record shall so reflect the defendant's waivers. On the issue of bail, does the state wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is an extremely wealthy man. Not only does he own a home here, he also maintains an apartment in the city of New York and a house just outside Zurich, Switzerland. This indicates not only that he has few real roots here, it also suggests that fleeing the jurisdiction of this court is well within his means. Therefore, to ensure the defendant's appearance in this court, the state urges that bail be denied.
Your Honor, Mr. Robertson is a well-rooted, successful member of the community who has never been accused of a crime and who is determined to appear here in court until his innocence has been proven. I urge the court to release Mr. Robertson on his own recognizance.
Mr. Mason, I think some bail is appropriate here. Bail is set in the amount of $200,000. Preliminary hearing is set on December 10th. Is that acceptable to the defense?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Reston?
Prosecution agrees.
Next case, bailiff?
State versus Sinclair.
I certainly didn't expect to see you here. I thought you would have gone home by now.
Well, in view of Mrs. Robertson's political prominence, the district attorney felt that this case warranted a special prosecutor.
I'm delighted. Oh? Yes. When Glenn Robertson is found innocent, no one can say it was because of politics, right?
Right?
Right.
Has the governor at all been brought into this?
7 years ago, I became ill, something that currently afflicts close to 10 million Americans. I went away, got some treatment and some rest, and came home cured. It was my husband's devotion to me, his fear that this somehow might be misconstrued or blown out of proportion, that landed him in this unfortunate situation. Given the circumstances, I can well understand why the governor would be reluctant to appoint me to the Senate. Frankly, that's no longer important. My job now is to do everything possible to make sure the truth is told and my husband is exonerated of all charges. That's all I'm concerned with. Nothing else matters.
Over this way. One more picture. Glenn, what are you...
What's the matter, counselor?
Who's your client?
Where'd you get him?
About an hour ago. Hotel said I could find you here.
Let's get to work.
He's in a great mood.
The police discovered Laura's file had been stolen, found Glenn's cigarette case near Dixon's body, and took him in.
Any ideas?
Only what I've already told you.
So Dixon got greedy, tried his hand at a little blackmail instead of turning the file over.
Then you think the person that hired Dixon to steal the records is the person that killed him?
Sounds good.
Paul, here's his office address. See if you can find out who his last employer was. You did say you've been here before.
Oh, I used to date somebody who lives up here. Broke up with her about 3 years ago. Not a happy ending. Let her down kind of hard.
Hoping to see her again.
Tell her, it's a big city. The odds against that are astronomical. Besides, I checked the phone book. She's now listed.
Just bear in mind, both of you, the murder was, one way or another, the result of an attempt to discredit Laura. When we unravel that, we'll get to the killer. Thanks.
How is Laura?
She's a trooper, always has been.
By the way, Perry, I've been meaning to ask you, we didn't happen to go to the fundraiser because we knew she was going to be there, did we?
What are we saying?
35 years isn't so long ago.
It was 30 years ago.
Who's counting?
Not me. Talk to you later.
Kurtz hands off to Morrison, who is smothered by that big Panther line. He loses a yard or two on the play. Boy, they were just waiting for it. He gained over 60 yards.
Excuse me, my name's Mason. Name, address, license plate, business phone, and a major credit card, please.
I would just like the key to room 3.
You another cop?
Defense attorney, here's my card.
Blitz. Get rid of it.
Snap, balls back, and hands off to Morrison, who gets about 5 yards.
It's Mr. Lane, isn't it?
Sorry.
There is a flag. Yes, there is. That's Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. Quite a game.
Right. Clipping? Oh, give me a break. Those referees will do it to you every time.
30-yard line. They're calling up to 78.
I want you to tell me and show me exactly what happened last night.
You want me to go through it again?
You're going to have to trust me sometime, Glenn.
Look, I'll level with you. I don't like this arrangement.
All right, Glenn. I'll level with you. There's nothing between Laura and me except friendship. Everything else ended a long time ago.
I walked through the door. It was open. The room was dark.
Curtains open or drawn?
Drawn. I bumped into the desk coming in. Knocked the phone to the floor. I picked it up, placed it back on the desk. Then I saw him lying there.
Then what?
I walked towards him. I put on a light. And then moved a carafe or something so that I could feel his pulse. He was dead. And I started looking for the envelope that had the file in it. I tore through the dresser, and I headed back for the desk, and I tripped on something right there. Everything fell out of my jacket pocket. And that's how the cigarette case got there.
And when you were picking things up, you saw the envelope?
Yes, it was behind the dresser. A piece of it was sticking out, and I walked towards it, picked it up, looked for it. It was empty. I left.
Did you see anyone in the parking lot or around the office?
Not just the fellow at the desk.
Look around and think hard. What else about last night comes to mind?
Nothing. I could have told you this trip would be a waste of time.
Waste of time? Not at all.
Sorry.
Is there something I can do for you?
Well, that depends.
On what?
Who you are.
Pete Sutton. I'm Luke Dixon's partner. Who are you?
Paul Drake. I didn't know he had a partner.
I got another surprise for you. Luke, he took a cab. He's dead. Fini.
I know. I'm investigating his murder.
Cop?
I work for a defense attorney. Wants to know who hired Dixon to dig up Laura Robertson's past.
Well, don't look at me. I'm trying to see if Luke squirreled away some money. Get my half before his ex-wife grabs it.
Don't spend much time in the office, do you?
Why do you say that?
You're tan. You spend a serious amount of time in the sun, don't you?
Hey, that's very good. Hey, you're a trained observer. That's all right. I do a lot of surveillance. I'm the outside man.
You must have an idea who some of his recent clients were.
Oh, sorry. You know, you have to ask Luke. If you don't mind waiting a very long time for an answer.
Didn't keep any records?
Well, of course he did. Man was obsessive. Help yourself.
In here?
No, in the closet. I mean, where else? Here, I'll even unlock the door for you.
It's unlocked.
Ah.
Hey! Hey! Let me out of here!
Oh. What's going on, guys?
We got a report that somebody broke in here. Looks like you're under arrest, friend.
Hello, Della.
Hello.
I think Perry's expecting me.
Yes, he is. Sit down, won't you? Can I get you anything?
No, thanks. Is Perry here?
He'll be back any minute. Laura, I'm very sorry for what's happened.
Thank you. We'll survive somehow.
I've always admired you for your strength.
Oh, I'm a professional survivor, Della. It's what I do. What about you? How have you been?
Fine. Just fine.
Steadfast and loyal, as always.
That's what I do.
Ever marry?
No?
I've always wanted to ask you, but never had the nerve and the bad manners at the same time. What about you and Perry? I mean...
All right. Perry and I have...
Good. I see you two are getting reacquainted.
Right. Laura, it was nice seeing you. If you'll excuse me, I have to go out for a while.
Where?
Oh, I'm going to buy some supplies.
You just bought supplies.
Right. Well, I'll just go return a few phone calls.
Am I interrupting something?
No.
No?
Bye, Laura.
Laura, you said 7 years ago when you had your breakdown, people were told you'd gone away on vacation. Who knew what really happened?
Let's see. Emmett, of course. Emmett Michaels. You remember him.
Still your doctor?
He's still a good friend.
Who else?
My law partner, Elliot Moore. He could see for himself that something was terribly wrong. The same went for Jennifer Parker. She not only stuck with me, she's such a determined young woman. Sometimes I think she willed me back to health. And, of course, my assistant, Audrey Pratt. Besides Glenn, that's all.
You're certain of that?
Yes.
I'm going to need all the information you can give me on those 4 people.
Why?
Because one of them could have hired Dixon to steal your medical records in order to ruin your career. And one of them could have killed Dixon when he tried to blackmail you on his own.
Perry, you're wrong. Those are my friends.
It's entirely possible that one of them is not a friend at all.
Excuse me. Perry, Paul's on the phone. He sounds strange.
Excuse me. I ran out of change or I'd use the machine down the hall. Do you think it's possible I could have a cup of coffee?
Sure. Black?
Please. And who do you work for?
Lieutenant McNabb.
Lieutenant McNabb. I'm a PI working on the Robertson case.
Oh, that's nice.
I haven't had an opportunity to meet the officer in charge yet, but they're usually very defensive about a PI on a case. But I have nothing against cops. They do the best they can.
You're free to go, Paul. Hello, Sergeant.
Mr. Mason.
Sergeant.
Come on, Don Juan.
Oh, do the best you can.
The guy searching Dixon's office did the breaking and entering, not me.
Any idea who he was?
Definitely not his partner, and probably not Pete Sutton either. At least I couldn't find a Pete Sutton in the phone book.
I'd like to know what he was doing in that office.
You wouldn't believe how much that looked like Linda.
Who's Linda?
Girl I used to date here. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I said I'd like to know what he was doing in that office.
Oh, my pleasure. Matter of fact, I'll get on that right now.
Oh, Paul, I really don't need any more clients. Just watch yourself.
Now, where were we again?
That hurt! Well, you're a real crime stopper, aren't you? Okay, so I'm sorry, you know? I saw those cops coming and I freaked.
You're not Dixon's partner. You're not a PI. You want to tell me who you are?
The name's Wheeler, Sid Wheeler. Big Sid Wheeler.
So, Sid, you break into Dixon's office. Now you break into his house. What is this, a chronic condition with you, breaking and entering?
I'm a desperate man, Paul. Dixon had something that I must find.
Like what?
Pictures.
Pictures?
It's my wife. I thought she was stepping out on me, so I hired Dixon to follow her. Turns out I was right. And he got pictures, in color. Boy, did he get pictures.
Didn't he turn them over to you?
Hey, gave me a couple of samples. Said he'd keep the rest until I paid my fee. Which he suddenly doubled, that little creep.
What makes you think they're here?
Maybe they're not. They gotta be someplace. They weren't at the office. I don't know, it's just a process of elimination.
He didn't take them with him, that's for sure.
Well, Big Sid, I gotta go. But good luck. Thanks. Oh, by the way, the guy your wife was running around with, friend of yours?
Who said it was a guy?
Huh. Huh.
Perry? Hello, Emmett. Didn't get a chance to say hello at the arraignment. What can I do for you?
I need some answers.
Anything to help?
I understand Laura was under your care at the time of her breakdown 7 years ago.
Yes.
What was your diagnosis?
Well, in general, she was acutely depressed. So much so that she simply could no longer function. Now, whether chemical imbalances were a cause of the depression or a result of it, nevertheless, they were there. Once they were brought back into balance via the proper treatment, she was cured.
I understand you were instrumental in keeping this episode a secret.
Well, I led certain people to believe one or two things that weren't quite true concerning her health, yes.
Where were you when Luke Dixon was murdered?
You surely don't think that
I had to ask. You don't have to answer.
At home. Probably reading. Undoubtedly alone.
You should have married, Emmett. You'd have had a better alibi.
Sounds good, Phil. Keep me posted. Right. According to my contacts at the Capitol, the mail's been running 7-1 in favor of Laura's appointment to the Senate.
In spite of what's happened.
Or maybe even because of it, who knows. Anyway, the best news is the governor's decided to delay the appointment until this thing's resolved.
Proving once again that America loves a devoted wife.
And making it imperative that we give them both barrels at this preliminary hearing. Because the way I see it, if we can get this case dismissed without a jury trial, we might actually be better off than we were to begin with. Of course, it's really all up to you, Perry. What kind of progress are you making?
You seem quite determined that Laura gets that appointment.
I am. It's a chance of a lifetime.
For you? Or for her?
For both. I'm not going to lie. I joined up with Laura 7 years ago because I figured she could help get me where I really wanted to go. And that's to Washington. There's nothing wrong with that. It's natural. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Symbiosis.
Only game in town.
Who do you think will get the appointment if she doesn't?
I don't think. I know. Or at least my sources at the Capitol do. Bill Harding, no doubt about it.
Which means he'd have to vacate his congressional seat.
Obviously.
I understand you keep a residence in that congressional district.
That's right.
But you don't live there.
No, I don't.
But that's your legal residence.
Yes.
So if Harding's congressional seat is vacated, you could run for office.
It's called hedging your bets.
Yes, indeed.
Perry, you have a phone call. Sergeant Austin calling on behalf of a Mr. Drake.
Mason, maybe I should open a branch office down here.
Oh, it's not going to happen again. Especially if I get my hands on that guy.
Still have no idea who he is?
Well, he's not a Pete Sutton, and he's not a Sid Wheeler either. I checked the license number. Plates were stolen.
You're dealing with a pro.
Yeah, well, so's he.
Linda!
For a second there, I thought...
Good thing that wasn't her. You forgot to hide.
You know, I've been thinking. It's been 3 years. She wouldn't carry a grudge that long, would she?
You implied she was devastated when you left her.
Yeah, but it's been 3 years. That's practically a lifetime, isn't it?
Mr. Mason. Thanks for coming down here to meet me.
I appreciate your taking the time to talk to me, Mr. Moore. I'm sure you're very busy.
Yes, well, first things first. How can I help you?
I understand you've been with the firm for some time.
26 years. Tom Robertson, that's Glenn's father, founded the firm. I was one of the first people he brought aboard.
So you worked your way to the top.
Tom made me a senior partner 12 years ago. 3 years before he died.
How long has Laura been a senior partner?
Just about the same time, 12 years.
She also worked her way to the top?
She married the boss's son.
You mean she was given a full partnership the day she walked in the door?
Close to it, yes.
How do you feel about that, Mr. Moore?
I don't harbor any resentment towards Laura, if that's what you're getting at, and I rather suspect it is. The truth is, she's a damn good lawyer.
I understand she ran for Congress 9 years ago, unsuccessfully.
We all worked very hard in that campaign.
I also understand you're the sole owner of the LLD Corporation.
Yes. Why?
That corporation made quite a few campaign contributions in that election.
All of them perfectly legal.
All of them went to support Laura's opponent. You've been very helpful, Mr. Moore. Thank you.
So what you're hearing now is Pete Sutton or Sid Wheeler or whatever he's calling himself these days trashing the guy's house after I left.
You think he was looking for the key?
Well, there were 6 keys in this case when I saw it in Dixon's office. It's only 5 now.
Yeah, I need to talk to Batman. Hey, it's me. What's the morning line on a Bronco game? Get your money, all right? How's noon tomorrow? Yeah, I'll be there.
Gambler?
My theory is he got that tan of his at the racetrack.
A bookie named Batman.
Well, I'll see you.
Where are you going?
See if I can track down this Batman.
Well, you certainly have me convinced that whoever killed Dixon had prior knowledge of Laura's breakdown. How many people knew?
4 to be exact. And each of them with a motive. Della, There were a lot of photographers at the fundraiser. See if you can round up some pictures. I'd like to know exactly who was there and when.
All right.
Mr. Mason, what do you think your chances are of winning this case?
I'll let you know when we win.
Mr. Robertson, just how far would you go to protect your wife?
I've never even socked a reporter.
Mrs. Robertson, what do you think your chances are of winning the Senate seat?
As I said before, my only concern is to prove my husband's innocence.
Excuse us.
Look, I'd like to help you, but I'm due in court.
Just tell me where I can find Batman.
Come again?
You know, this guy calls himself Batman. He's a bookie. Where can I find him?
Try Gotham City.
Look, Sergeant Austin, think of me as a lowly PI groveling in the dirt for tiny bits of information. And then think of yourself in this exalted position at the police department with access to all kinds of information. Couldn't you, out of the goodness of your heart, throw me some small, tiny tidbit?
You need help.
That's the point.
All right, try Mitchum's Bar and Grill.
Thank you.
Sure.
You have a very nice smile.
Sergeant Austin, did the medical examiner arrive at a cause of death?
Yes, sir, he did.
Please tell the court his finding.
A deep wound at the temple indicated the decedent fell and hit his head on the corner of the dresser, causing his death.
Were there any signs in the room of a prior struggle?
It appeared the decedent had been struck on the head with a blunt object.
Do you recognize this carafe marked People's Exhibit 3?
Yes, I do. It has my tag on it.
How does it come to have your tag on it?
It was found on the floor approximately 38 inches to the left of the victim.
Would that be the victim's left or the onlooker's left?
The victim's left.
So, here.
That's correct.
It has been stipulated by counsel that People's Exhibit 3 was, in fact, the so-called blunt object used to strike the victim. Were fingerprints found on this carafe?
Yes, the defendant's.
I show you now People's Exhibit 9 and ask you to identify it.
This is the customized cigarette case which was found on the floor of the victim's motel room, directly beneath the front window.
Directly beneath the front window would be here.
That's right.
Were you able to identify the owner of this cigarette case?
Yes, sir. It has the initials GR on the front, and we traced it to Mitchell's Sterling shop here in town.
Your Honor, we offer as Exhibit 10 this sales receipt issued to Glenn Robertson by Mitchell Sterling, reflecting the sale of one cigarette case engraved with the initials GR on the front.
Mr. Mason?
No objection.
Thank you. Sergeant Austin, in the course of your investigation, did you discover anything else that could link the defendant, Glenn Robertson, to the victim, Luke Dixon?
Yes, sir. The morning after the murder, we received an anonymous phone call telling us Luke Dixon was a blackmailer. Acting on the caller's information, we contacted the Halvern Clinic in Sunland, Arizona, and learned that records detailing the hospitalization and treatment of Laura Robertson had recently been stolen.
Did you discover who stole those records?
Fingerprints found at the scene of the burglary at the Halvern Clinic matched those of the deceased Luke Dixon.
Thank you, Sergeant Austin. No further questions? Your witness.
Sergeant Austin, other than on the carafe, where else in that motel room were Glenn Robertson's fingerprints found?
They were all over the room.
On the chest of drawers?
Yes.
Desk?
Yes.
The phone?
Yes.
Were anyone else's fingerprints found on the phone?
No, just his.
Doesn't that strike you as rather unusual?
No.
No. A motel room phone gets a good deal of use. Yet on that particular phone, only one set of fingerprints were found. Now, what does that suggest to you?
That somebody cleaned it.
A maid? Or someone else? Someone who was in that room ahead of Glenn Robertson, someone who wiped the phone clean to make sure no one would know who the killer was.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation on the part of the witness.
Sustained.
Let's go back to the murder weapon, Sergeant. How many sets of prints were on the carafe?
Just one.
Dixon's?
No, Glenn Robertson's.
Then it, too, had been wiped clean?
Objection. Speculation.
Sorry, Your Honor. No further questions.
You may step down. Mr. Eston, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Mr. Robert Lane to the stand. Were you working at the Pioneer Motel the evening that Luke Dixon was killed, Mr. Lane?
I sure was.
On that evening at around 10:30, did you see anyone arrive at the motel?
Yes. That person right there.
Let the record show that the witness has identified the defendant, Glenn Robertson, as the person he saw that night at the motel. Did you happen to notice where he went, Mr. Lane?
To room 3.
Room 3. You're certain?
From the front desk, I have a clear view of everything. And I've got a hell of a memory.
That being the case, Mr. Lane, did you see anyone else go into room 3 that evening?
No, sir. And I was right there at the front desk from 8 o'clock on. No one else went near that room.
Thank you. Your witness.
Mr. Lane, on the night of the murder, your shift at the motel began at 8 in the evening and ended at 8 in the morning, did it not?
Yes, it did.
12 hours. How do you usually pass the time?
Watch TV. Sometimes read.
Is it possible someone could slip by you unseen while you're engrossed in one of these activities?
I can see things out of the corner of my eye that most people can't see looking straight on. My boss will tell you.
He did. He also said you're quite a football fan.
Oh, you better believe it. I never miss a Bronco game.
I understand the game they played recently against the 49ers was pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah. Especially the last quarter.
Oh? Why was that?
Your Honor, I object. What possible relevance can the discussion of a football game have to this case?
I intend to show relevance, Your Honor. I beg the court to bear with me just a moment or two longer.
Very well. Proceed.
What happened in the last quarter of that game, Mr. Lane? I'm sure you remember.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Score's tied with 2 minutes to go. 49ers have the ball on their own 48. Montana drops back. It's a draw play. Bam! Stop the line of scrimmage. No gain. Second down. Montana takes a snap, drops back again. Broncos rush. Crowd's going berserk. Montana hits a screen pass. Bam! Out of bounds on our 44. It's 3rd and short. They rush. We hold. Out comes the field goal unit from the 50. Bam! From the 50-yard line, he hits it. 49ers are up by 3.
Your Honor.
Quickly, Mr. Lane. Tell us about the last minute.
Okay. There's 32 seconds to go. 49ers have the ball again on our 46. It's 2nd and 7, and they're killing the clock. Fans are heading for the exits. TV announcers thanking all his engineers. Montana runs a simple off-tackle rush. Bam, there's a fumble. It's a huge pileup. One by one, the referee pulls off the players. There's a Bronco at the bottom. Bam, Broncos ball, and Mr. John Elway leads his team out onto the field. It's 1st and 10, 27 seconds to go. Bam! Elway hits it down and out on their 48. Stops the clock with 22 seconds to go. 2nd and 4. Elway takes the snap. Drops back. 2 49ers bust through. Elway scrambles. Bam! He hits a fly pattern on the 20. There's one 49er between our guy and the game. Their guy dives. Our guy cuts. Bam! TD. Broncos win. It was awesome!
I remind the spectators this is a courtroom, not a nightclub. Any further disturbances, and I will have this courtroom cleared.
Yes, Mr. Lane, it certainly was awesome. You, watched the game on TV?
Most of it, yes.
At work?
Yes, I think I was at work.
Do you recall what night that was, Mr. Lane?
I can't write off, no.
It was the night of September 12th, the night of the murder. Isn't it true, Mr. Lane, that from the moment you arrived at work, you were watching the game?
Well, yes.
Isn't it true the game ended at 10:30? And it was at that time you saw Glenn Robertson arrive at the motel? Yes. Isn't it also true any number of people could have gotten into that room without your seeing them while you were watching the game?
Yes, I suppose so, but...
Thank you, Mr. Lane. No further questions.
You may step down. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
Court will recess until 2:30 this afternoon.
Hey, Shirley, over here.
It's me, Pete Dixon. Meet me at the Crestmore Savings and Loan at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll wrap things up. No, but I will. Right.
That call have anything to do with the Robertson case? I think we should talk, Mr. Dixon.
You by any chance Luke Dixon's brother? Oh, it wasn't by chance. My parents, they worked hard to have me. Now, this is side. I may never forgive you. Right this way.
Your name came up in roll call, Drake.
Should I be flattered?
If you like being compared to a bad cold, unpleasant, hard to get rid of.
Now. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. What's in there?
Ooh.
New money.
Uh-huh.
Real name is Pete Dixon, as in Luke Dixon. You ever heard of him?
If you want a rap sheet on him, check with records.
I wonder what this is doing in here. Not on here.
The safe deposit key is from Crestmore Savings and Loan. Well, Dixon's supposed to meet someone there at 4 o'clock.
Do you mind if I...
Sorry. I think you're done here.
I think you're right. Thank you.
Sure.
I won't forget this.
Here are the photos I've come up with so far from the fundraiser.
Let me see them. There isn't time.
Perry.
What do you want them for? Well, I don't know yet.
I checked out Pete Dixon. He's done time for forgery, fraud, and grand theft auto. He must have had some angle on this case. Knew who Luke Dixon was working for. Thought perhaps he could get some money out of it.
How is he?
He's still unconscious.
We could keep that appointment for him, unless he comes to. Tell us who he was going to meet.
Thank you. Bad news?
That's a good question.
All rise. Court is reconvened. Be seated.
Mr. Mason, you may call your first witness.
I call Dr. Emmett Michaels to the stand. Dr. Michaels, you were Laura Robertson's doctor at the time of her breakdown 7 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, exactly what was her condition?
Well, she was suffering from a psychosis known as manic depression. In layman's terms, she was on an emotional roller coaster over which she had no control. Fortunately, as most cases nowadays, she responded well and quickly to the treatment.
Your treatment?
Yes, my treatment.
And what did your treatment consist of, Dr. Michaels?
Well, mostly just regular doses of an antidepressant, trimipramine, I believe.
And shock treatment?
Yes, there was some electroconvulsive therapy, yes.
That therapy is very controversial, is it not? And wasn't it controversial 7 years ago as well?
It was effective 7 years ago, and the diagnosis I had made in Laura's case warranted it.
I don't suppose you could give us the name of the medical authority who concurs with your diagnosis.
Yes, I could. Dr. Arlington agrees with me.
Who is Dr. Arlington?
He's a psychiatrist, Mr. Mason. Probably one of the most famous England ever produced.
We're not above a little edification, Doctor. Tell us more.
10 years ago, he published a book called Arlington on Manic Depressives.
Is Arlington on manic depressives considered definitive?
Yes, it's the definitive book on the subject.
And in that book, he agrees with your diagnosis.
Completely.
Thank you. Could you show us where Dr. Arlington agrees with you?
I beg your pardon?
That is a copy of Arlington on Manic Depressives, identical to the one I saw in your office. Please show the court where in that book Dr. Arlington agrees with you.
Now?
Yes, now. Show us, please.
Well, I can't do that now. As you can see, that's a very thick book. I don't want to take up the court's time at searching through them.
Don't you even know where approximately in the book he agrees with you?
Well, I'm not sure. I would have to go through the whole book. I don't think that we have time for that now.
Dr. Michaels, in order to hear the truth, I'm sure this court will give you all the time in the world.
Your Honor, I object. Dr. Michaels is not on trial here.
Your Honor, the prosecution is basing its whole case against my client on the idea that the murder of which he stands accused was the result of a blackmailing scheme.
None of this is relevant.
A scheme only a handful of people, the people who knew about Laura Robertson's medical history, could have orchestrated. I submit that the prosecution has left me no choice but to pursue this line of questioning.
Objection overruled.
The court is still waiting for you to show us where in that book Dr. Arlington agrees with you. Isn't it true that you are and always have been in love with Laura Robertson?
I suppose so. Yes.
Isn't it true you were despondent when she married Glenn Robertson?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you diagnosed her condition as emotional instability to keep her dependent on you?
No.
Isn't it true that you subjected her to unnecessary shock treatment because you were afraid you were losing your influence over her?
No.
Isn't it true you knew if this treatment ever became public, it would ruin her career?
I prescribed it because it was consistent with my diagnosis.
A diagnosis based on your need to manipulate and control the woman you couldn't have. Oh, Dr. Michaels. How could you say you love her? You don't even know the meaning of the word. No further questions.
You may step down. This court will adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow.
If I'm right, whoever shows up to keep that meeting Pete Dixon arranged is the blackmailer. Linda.
Paul?
Linda.
Paul!
Linda.
Paul.
How are you?
Great. Pat. How are you?
I'm fine. It's a nice-looking baby you got there. The one down here, I mean.
Thanks.
Well, you look like you're doing okay.
I am.
I'm doing pretty good myself. I'm in town on business for a few days.
I gotta go. Doctor's appointment. You take care.
Nice to see you. Well, I guess she managed to get over me.
I guess she did.
There's our guy.
If you're waiting for Pete Dixon, he's not coming, Mr. Moore.
What are you talking about?
You paid his brother a lot of money to steal Laura Robertson's medical file.
I did no such thing.
Why were you going to expose Laura's medical history? You can answer in court if necessary.
Well, Laura just waltzed into a job that I worked a lifetime to get. I was determined to stop this appointment. That's why I hired Luke, but he crossed me up.
So you killed him?
No. I never stepped foot in that motel room.
Where were you the night of the murder?
At a testimonial dinner.
Mr. Moore, it would have been very easy to slip out during the after-dinner speech and slip back in again unnoticed.
Yes. But how easy is it when you're sitting on a dais, Mr. Mason? Giving the after-dinner speech with 100 witnesses.
Here's a list of your phone messages and your notes from today. And you still haven't looked at the photos from the fundraiser.
Thank you, Della.
How's your leg?
Medium rare. It hurts.
Take your medicine. If you need anything, I'll be in my room.
Della?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Night.
Night. Dear God.
All rise. Courtroom 92 of the Denver District Superior Court is now open and ready for the transaction of business. The Honorable Eleanor Daniels presiding. Be seated.
Defense may proceed.
Your Honor, defense calls Audrey Pratt to the stand. And you've been Mrs. Robertson's executive assistant for how long, Mrs. Pratt?
Almost a year.
But you worked with her prior to that.
Yes, for 9 years.
Were you working for her September 12th, the day of the big fundraiser?
Of course.
Did she get many phone calls that day?
Yes. People were calling left and right to congratulate her on her possible appointment to the Senate.
Did you keep a record of those calls?
I always write down the name of the caller, the time of the call, and whether or not Mrs. Robertson takes the call.
I'd like you to think back, if you would, Mrs. Pratt. Do any of the calls that came in that day stand out in your mind?
Well, I do remember receiving a call that day that was a bit unusual.
In what way?
The caller refused to give me his name. I remember arguing with him. He said he just had to speak with Mrs. Robertson, but he wouldn't tell me who he was.
What finally happened?
I put him through. Mrs. Robertson spoke with him. Briefly, as I recall, no more than 2 minutes.
Were you present at the fundraiser that was held that night?
You know I was, Mr. Mason.
Oh, that's right. We spoke about it several days ago, didn't we? I think you said Laura Robertson was never out of your sight except for the time she spent with me.
That's right.
Mrs. Pratt, I've known you for a long time. You've always been an honest and forthright person.
Thank you.
I'm sure that you wouldn't knowingly commit perjury while under oath, would you?
Of course not.
Did Mrs. Robertson leave the hotel at any time that evening?
I don't know. Perhaps.
What time did she leave?
She left at 9:45. She told me that she was going to have a private meeting with some backers and that I should cover for her.
But she didn't come back, did she? At least not right away.
No.
Do you remember what time she returned?
Around 10:30.
Thank you, Mrs. Pratt. That'll be all. I call Laura Robertson. Mrs. Robertson, as you know, you cannot be forced to testify against your husband.
Yes, I know.
I show you this photograph, Mrs. Robertson, and ask if you can identify it and tell us when and where it was taken.
That's my associate, Jennifer Parker, and me. It was taken at the fundraiser on the evening of September 12th.
Was the photograph taken before you left the party?
I don't know.
This is a blow-up of part of that photograph. Could you tell the court what you see?
Jennifer's wearing a watch. It says 9:20. That was before I left the party.
The man who called you at the office that afternoon but refused to leave his name, who was he?
Just a well-wisher, I suppose. I don't remember.
Was it the blackmailer, Luke Dixon?
No.
Wasn't he calling to make sure your husband would deliver the money? Now think carefully before you answer.
The answer is no.
You're certain?
Objection asked and answered.
Please, Laura. Don't make this more difficult.
Would counsel kindly speak up so that the court can hear his examination?
Isn't it true that you left the fundraiser to go to the Pioneer Motel where you had a violent argument with Luke Dixon and accidentally killed him?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is using this witness not to elicit testimony, but to engage in pure speculation.
It isn't speculation, Your Honor. I could prove that Laura Robertson was at that motel.
Then by all means, proceed.
You smoke, Mrs. Robertson?
Occasionally.
Sergeant Austin testified this cigarette case was found here on the floor, below the window. But Mr. Robertson says when he tripped, things fell out of his pocket, over here, near the foot of the bed, across the room. You see, Glenn Robertson just assumed that this cigarette case was in his pocket when he tripped and fell that night. But it wasn't, was it? You had it.
No,
Look at this photograph. The photograph you identified as having been taken at the fundraiser. There you are with Jennifer Parker. Her watch says 9:20. What is that in your right hand, Mrs. Robertson? What is that? People's Exhibit 9, isn't it? It's this cigarette case, isn't it? Your husband didn't have the cigarette case that night. You did. And you dropped it in Luke Dixon's motel room. That is the truth, is it not?
When Luke Dixon called my office, I found out that Glenn was going to pay him the blackmail. I decided to go to the motel before he arrived and try to get the file from Dixon.
Your husband did not know that you were going?
No.
What happened when you arrived in Luke Dixon's room?
He was surprised to see me. I tried to convince him to give me the file, but when he thought he wouldn't get paid, he became ugly. I tried to take the file from him. He struck me. I fought back. He fell and hit his head. I panicked and ran.
And you never told that to your husband?
No. I allowed my husband, who has never given me anything but love and support, to stand trial. I used the loyalty and trust of my friends to protect myself. I succumbed to a consuming ambition and let it destroy everything that I value. I'm sorry.
Your Honor, in view of these developments, I move that the people's case against Glenn Robertson be dismissed.
Mr. Reston?
State concurs.
Case dismissed.
All rise.
How could you do that to Laura? Now listen to me, Glenn. Dixon's death was clearly accidental. Any lawyer can prove that. But if you and Laura need me, I'll be back.
I realize it's an awkward time for me to ask, but I'd love to buy you dinner before I leave the city.
I'd like that.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Call me Linda.
Still here?
My plane leaves in 1 hour.
I was sure with you representing Glenn, he wouldn't be convicted. I was right.
I didn't want things to turn out this way.
I know. It was my plane leaving the last time.
Goodbye, Laura. Della?
Yes?
Let's go.